Hey there, Wendy here with Jazzydoodledesigns, and today we're going to do a color along in Hanna Karlzon's Magical Dawn. Now, as you guys know, I just finished a series with the matchstick mouse, and so I just wanted to do a simple color along just for myself. So look for a poll coming soon on what you would like me to use, what medium. I will be doing a color along with Black Widow pencils because I know I still owe you that. So let's take a look at the page that I've chosen. I've chosen this page and I'm going to be using Prismacolor colored pencils. So grab your pencils and let's go. What's up, everybody? So if you've been following my channel, you know I just colored the entire Pumpkin Party matchbook, Matchstick Mouse Pumpkin Party project, which was every page in that cute little color book. And so I felt the need to just do a little color along just for me. Whatever pencils I wanted, whatever mediums I wanted. And so I picked this one from Hanna Karlzon. I will put up a poll soon so that you guys can choose our next color along. I feel like I owe you guys a color along with Black Widow pencils because you chose Black Widow and Neocolor 2, and it was in Teresa Goodrich's Gnomes book. And so I chose to make that just how to use Neocolor 2s on Amazon paper. And so I will be doing a color along with Black Widows. So in this color along though, I just wanted to have a play. That's all I wanted, just freedom. So anyway, it's fall. I am absolutely loving this time of year. It's been, I don't know, I think it got up to 81 yesterday, which was really the warmest we've seen in a while. Mostly it's been in the 70s and then cooler in the evenings, and I just really enjoy this time of year. My birthday's coming up next week, and so so I have a love-hate with that going on because, as I said before, this year I become a speed limit, which, you know, I am grateful for every year that passes, and yet I feel like I feel every year that passes even more. And I know that y'all can relate to me, as many of you are in my generation, so to speak. But anyway, a couple of things I want to talk about today. I am nearing 1,000 subscribers, and so I am going to be doing a giveaway, and you need to be a subscriber in order to win. And I'm going to be doing I think I'm going to do a gift card for Amazon, just simply that way everybody can participate. And if I can't get the Amazon card to, let's say, someone from Australia or the UK one, you know, then we can do a Venmo or something like that, because I want everyone to be able to participate. And while I know that the majority of my subscribers are from the US, I do have those from across the pond, and I don't want to isolate anyone. And this way you can pick what you would like, or what you need in your art supply hoard. I want to keep it pretty simple, so basically it's going to be that when I do the video and announcement, there will be a link to a sign-up sheet, and it'll just be your a viable email and your first and last, or your name and email. That's all I'm going to need. It does need to be a verifiable email, and you have to be a subscriber. So other than that, I think that's we'll keep it really simple, and so look for that coming up really soon. So let's talk about the picture a minute. So I'm going in with a violet, and violet is, so I use violet, lilac, Parma violet, and dioxazine purple hue. So this is my second darkest color. So I'm not going in with my very darkest shade first. I find that starting with a mid-tone works well, especially with Prismacolors, because I can go in and kind of set in my, like, almost like where the shadows would be with this tone, but it's not so dark that there's no going back from it, if that makes sense. So I'm kind of using this as a guideline a little bit for my darker tones, and I can see, yeah, I like the look of that, or no, I don't. I know a lot of people go in with their very darkest and then they work their way to the lightest, and there are images that I do that with, and there are images that I start with the lighter tones, and it just really depends. So this is my thought behind it. When you start with lighter tones, let's say I went over the entire image with my lighter tone and then keep adding darks, the lights will dilute your darks a little bit. So I don't usually do it that way. For me, when I kind of go in with my mid-tone, by setting this up, you can kind of see, I can see, well, do I like my highlight in that area? And if I feel like it's too much of a highlight, I can go in and modify that a little bit. But you can see now I went to my next lightest tone, and I'm kind of butting it up to that initial color, kind of going over the entire top, blending it out a little bit, and really further defining where I want my true highlights to be. Now, I am trying, guys. I'm failing most of the time, but I do try to be a little more light-handed in these steps. I'm not a patient person in general. I get excited about the picture. I want to see it done, and I don't want to take a week. Those of you that take a week to do a picture, and not because of like you don't have a lot of time, but like I know that some people would spend 4 to 8 hours on this flower, and I salute you. I do. It is not in my personality. I don't know what it is. ADHD. I was diagnosed with that a long time ago. I don't really feel like I have debilitating ADHD. My son has it at a much, it's a lot more pervasive in his life, but I definitely have some tendencies, and this is one of them. So forgive me when I get a little crazy sometimes. Lilac is my lightest tone, and so I'm going in and butting it up against what I've already done, going over it, in some cases adding it in. I still leave little pops of white, which you'll see as we go along, that I end up filling in. I almost wish I would have left. It's such a struggle for me, because when I use white on images like this and I blend it, especially with purple for some reason, it just blends too much for me, and I feel like it becomes a totally different color. And for some reason, I'm really kind of liking almost the little white dots. Most of the time I don't, but in this image, for some reason, I don't know if it's just my mood right now or what, but I'm not really wanting it to be that super blended look. I'm really kind of liking the texture of the little white dots. And you might be totally going, Wendy, no, it looks terrible. I respect that. I do. And you'll see on many, many of my images that I do blend them. And the entire Matchstick Mouse, I blended the entirety of the picture with the Caran d'Ache blender. So it's not that I'm opposed to that. I just wasn't feeling it well in this picture. And the 2 times that I tried to blend, I just didn't really like the results. So do what you want in terms of whether or not you think you should leave some white. Do you think, you know what, I take it back because I do use grayed lavender here. Not yet, but surprise, it's coming up. So the dioxazine purple, this is where I go in, and now that I have the bulk of the image colored, I can go in with my darkest tone. And like I said, I don't color each picture or every picture the exact same way. And I know that's not helpful if you're a beginner, but quite honestly, I'm not a professional either. I'm learning the same as you, and I'm learning what works for me, and each image just kind of speaks to me. I think it also depends on what colors I'm using. So in this case, like I said before, I can add this dark and it still really pops. If you don't have a big shift in colors, you will just simply blend, which might be more the look you're going for. The Parma Violet and the Violet are while they're different, and you can definitely see a difference, they would provide a much more blendy look than what you're getting here. So keep that in mind when you're coloring, depending on ultimately the outcome that you want. Now, if you want to see this video in real time, then slow it down to half speed because this is at 2 times power. I just find this video would be, 5 hours if it was in real time, and not everyone wants it in real time. A lot of you do. So I feel like this is a good compromise because those of you that want it sped up, you can put it on 2 times. And those of you that want it in real time can go at half speed. And those of you that, a lot of people have said this is a good speed because you can still follow me. It doesn't get so far out of hand with the 4-speed like time lapses do. It's really hard to slow down a time lapse and really color it long. But some of you like to watch a little piece, hit pause, color your image, and then move forward. So I feel like this is a good comment or a good compromise. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know, what you prefer. I also prefer all of my color alongs to be in one video as opposed to parts. But that, I just feel like I tend to try and run my channel as if what I like when I go to somebody else's channel. If I go to their channel and I'm trying to find something and it's broken into parts, then I oftentimes have to watch more than one part to find what I'm looking for, because maybe I just want to see their technique for the leaf or the flower, not the entire color along. Or sometimes I'm coloring along and then I'm trying to find the next part and it kind of gets lost because they have a lot of videos. So I've had both of those things happen, and so that's just my personal preference. Once again, I would love to hear your feedback, and because I want this channel to be of value to you. If you look at this flower right now, before it gets all blended out, because you obviously saw the final product here, I like it with the white. I almost wish I would have kept those white highlights and maybe blended a little more with the other colors and just not taken them over the white. So, you know, that's part of the learning process, and we all do it, and we all kind of second guess our decisions. You know, that's life. In life, we second guess our decisions too. But I add this darkest area just so you know my thought process. The darkest area to me goes in between all those little, I can't even think of what they're called, the little stamens or whatever in the middle, because they would be in shadow. They're inside the flower, so they would get less light, and they're deeper in. And then I blend it out as I go. So I guess the idea is to try and teach you the concept as opposed to, well, color dioxazine purple here. Also, I'm using the dark along the edges where the flowers kind of overlap. I put little dark, you can see like in the little, okay, people, you're probably thinking, spit it out. But you know how like the petal has like the little outshoots, the little, you know, the little bays where it kind of like the little coves. I put a little darkness in there. I'm going to draw a line so you know what I'm talking about. So I do that because I feel like it gives the petal, it looks like the petal is kind of bent or dipped in that area. And it just adds a little more interest. I also do it on the spots where the petals curve for the same reason. I just like this look. So here's the surprise. Here's the gray lavender, which I guess is my lightest tone. And like I said, I almost wish I wouldn't have went over the white spots. But you can see how when I go over everything, the purples just really all blend together. And it's not a bad look. I like how this picture came out. I don't know. There's a part of me that liked it the way it was. But it definitely wasn't, you know, there wasn't enough layers. So maybe if I had layered it again using the same colors I did before and leaving the white, I don't know. You know, maybe I should experiment with that on another piece. I did feel like the white was a little stark. Like, I don't know. What do you think? Like, what are you even rambling on about, lady? I don't know. Sometimes when you do art, you take it to another step and you wish you wouldn't have. But like I said, overall, I really like how this piece turned out. Can you believe it's almost October? I can't even believe it. This year has went by so fast. I think part of it is with my new grandson. All of a sudden, you're like, wait a minute. What do you mean he's 8 months old? What do you mean he's 9 months old? It's just you blink and it goes by so fast. But basically, I'm using the grade lavender kind of as a blender tool. But I do kind of like this textured feel of this. So I'm going to leave you to it, and when we get to the leaves, I'll be back. Okay, so next up with these leaves, I just wanted this picture to have a different color combination than your typical, Prussian green, Kelly green, apple green leaf, which there's nothing wrong with those. I think those are beautiful, but I wanted it to have a little bit of a cooler tone. So I'm going in with the slate gray. Now I will tell you that I get all the way done with the picture and decide I want to add another color to the leaves. So that is done at the very end of the picture. So if you want to scroll ahead, like if you're coloring along, you may want to scroll ahead and do that portion and then come back. It's certainly up to you. I try to make my color alongs easy to follow, but my brain doesn't always work in a linear pattern that way. So I liked these leaves at this, at the point that I move on. But then when I saw the picture in its entirety, I just felt like it needed something. So I add a purple tone to the flowers or to the leaves. So just a heads up on that. But I'm using a different color combination, and sometimes I put them in a different order, and it just, by using the same colors but using them in a different order, sometimes that will change the outcome, the overall effect. So don't be surprised. I also do this leaf to the top, or the small leaf to the left of the one I'm working on. I did try and put in a little bit more of the Prussian green, and so that leaf ended up a little different than the others, as I didn't want that, but I did want a little variance. So don't be surprised when I do the other leaves if I start with or I use like a jade green as opposed to celadon green. I want to keep them similar, but not all exactly the same, if that makes sense. You can see that by going over my highlights with this gray-green light, it still maintained the highlight because it's a light enough color. So I'm going to leave you to it, and I'll catch up with you in a few minutes. So this is that leaf that I was talking about. So I start off just like I did before. I've got the slate green, gray, and then I'm going to go in with the celadon green. So everything's the same so far. But then I bring in a Prussian green. And once I do that, it just changes the entire overall look of these leaves. And it just adds a lot more green and less blue-green. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that the rest of the leaves have this blue-green feel, and this one has a lot more overall. Like, you can already see it's a much warmer color. So, now when I add the sap green light, it takes on a much warmer appearance. Now, you might prefer this combination completely, which is fine. I just was liking the blue green, and I don't know, I probably should have went with the gray green light there and it would have been fine. But you'll see in the end, it just, see how much greener it looks there? So I'm going to leave you to some leaves with some music, and I'll catch up with you in a few. Okay, so as I moved down to this other flower, my initial thought was to have this be a much lighter overall color of purple. So, like in the top one with the dioxazine purple hue, it really adds a lot of darkness to the flower, and maybe the overall feel was more one of the violet as opposed to this lilac tone. In the end, I end up deciding it needed those darker values just as a preference. So just know, and you can see that there are more than one way to color. I often get asked the question, is it better to color light to dark or dark to light? And I do it both ways, as I already mentioned. But this is a prime example. So here I've started with the light. I end up putting in the exact same colors, and I think that you'll find that overall the two flowers look very similar. This one turns out ever so slightly lighter, and I think it's because this lilac is going to just very slightly change the tones of the other colors that I use by being underneath. So in this case, it doesn't make a jumping out at you difference, but in other areas, other colors will make a really big impact if they're underneath, and that can be used to your advantage for sure. But just know that was my thought process on this, because sometimes I think if I was watching this color along, I would be asking myself, okay, why didn't we color this one exactly like we colored the other one, starting with our mid-tone, right? So that's why. I even add in a little bit of pink just to try and change this one up a little bit, and quite honestly, they end up very, very similar in the end. I think it has something to do with the purples. There's something about when you blend them, they blend so well together that the colors, like, you lose the individual colors and it all just becomes purple. So I'm going to leave you to it, and I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so in order to blend out that one dark leaf, I decided that on all of these smaller leaves, I was going to add a little bit of this Prussian green just to maybe make it look like the bigger leaves are the blue-green and the Prussian green, but it's mainly just to add a touch of balance to what I did for no other reason, really. So on this flower, I chose to leave out the color violet. I just used Parm Violet, Lilac, Dioxazine, Purple Hue, and Grade Lavender. And it does change the overall effect slightly, but once again, when you look at the picture when it's done, it's not like you look at it and go, wow, those are all really different. It the result is subtle, but it is there. So I thought I would mention it. So I guess I do go back in with the deepest tone here on this flower. I think it just, when I looked at it, it was just lacking. I don't know, I like the looks of the dark tones with the light, and so I think that's why I chose to do that. I wish I was better at color alongs. I see people that do color alongs, and it's like they pick up one pencil and they do the entire page in that pencil, and then they never touch that pencil again. And I don't know how they do it. When I color, I'm not that systematic about it, I guess. So I hope that you guys aren't finding it too difficult or annoying, that maybe you thought you were done with that flower, and then that I go back in and add something to it. I do try and show you the before and the after so that you can see what the overall picture is, so you know where I'm going in general. I do hope it's something that I get a little better at. I do try, and I feel like gotten a little bit better about doing things to completion. Like here, I generally complete a flower and then move on to the leaves and then move on to the flower. I guess, some might say I should have went and did all the leaves first, and then, or all the flowers first and then all the leaves, and that might be more efficient. It's just not how I necessarily, think. Because I always leave myself grace to decide at the last minute, no, maybe I wanted that flower to be purple, or not purple, but like blue, or maybe I wanted a yellow one. So maybe I just have commitment issues. Maybe that's what it is. I do know that sometimes I'm like that with TV too. I'll say, oh, I don't want to watch that movie. It's 2 hours long. Like, that just feels like this big commitment. And then I'll binge watch like 30-minute, like 30-minute sessions and end up watching more, Does that make sense? I know I'm just quirky, but let me know if you've ever done that too, like had commitment issues with TV. I'm not a huge TV watcher, but there are times when I've literally said that and then ended up watching more TV in 30-minute bursts. So yeah, I just keep tweaking it, and this is, if you're following along, this is just personal judgment. Like, do you like how it's looking? Does it look good in relation to the other one? To me, this flower ends up looking slightly pinker because I did add the pink, and I added a lot more violet, or this lilac, in the base. But it is definitely subtle. So let me know, or just know, I guess you don't need to let me know anything, but just know that you have the ability to make these flowers look the way you want it. Because right now I feel like my skill level isn't such that I always get things done in one go. So I color, and then I look at everything as a whole, and then I decide, oh, well, I think this or that. Okay, so for the background, I wanted kind of a soft, muted, like a background, like back in the 80s, if you went to Sears or JCPenney and they had that background in the bag. I wanted something like that. So I'm using the 3 Neocolor 2s, light gray, beige, and periwinkle blue, and I'm just adding them randomly across this page. So kind of separating them out, not putting too much of one color in any one spot. But I feel like this is a nice balance between the blue and kind of a warmer tone from the beige, and then the purple in there. So I'm just going to go over everything here. And then as I blend it out, now you can do this as many times as you want. So you could put your first layer down, and I was happy with my first layer, so I didn't do more than 1 layer. But if you put it down and you're like, well, it's a little too light, or it's a little patchy, or it's a little streaked, or whatever, feel free to let it completely dry and then just add another layer. You can add it directly, just like I'm doing right now, or you can actually take your water brush and touch it to your pen or your crayon, and then apply it that way as well for the second layer. And that's a good way to touch up just random areas. But I actually liked the look that I got when I was done. Now I will say, do you see all the little white areas that I left in between colors? I do, and you'll see it here in a second. It's kind of hard when you voice over because you know what's coming, but I hate when there's like gaps in the conversation. But anyway, my point is just fill it out well. Make sure that all the areas are covered well. Because if you look at that top left-hand corner, you can see how much page is actually showing. And so when I hit it with the water the first time, I realize I need more color here. I need more product here. So I'm going to let myself catch up to my mouth. Okay, so I have this water brush and I go over it and I realize I need more product. It just looks too washed out. So I go back in with the light gray only, and I just go over all those areas where I just have blank page. If you don't do this when you use the Neocolors, you will get more buckling, you'll get more chance of seepage into the back because you're literally applying water on water. Whereas if you're if your paper is colored with the Neocolor 2, that waxy pigment acts kind of as a barrier. So while you will get a little bit of warping of your paper, which I have a video and I'll put a link in the description for it on how to flatten your pages, and it really does work well. But now that that area is dried up there at the top, I just added a little more color. And then I go back in and I have my towel there, but because my goal is to blend these colors with each other and create kind of just a muted background, I really don't tap off much. I do a little bit. And here in those little areas, you can see where I just touched the tip of my wet brush to the crayon and just went into those little tiny areas. Now, if I did not want this to be a blendy look, then I would need to, as I go into each color, you may want to wipe off. But I wanted this to be blendy, so I do it here and there if I feel like it's becoming too gray, maybe. And I'm not worried about the stars because I know I'm going to go over those, so I'm not, I just run my brush over them. I don't care. But I do try and avoid the bug, because the stars, I know I'm going to use something more opaque, whereas I'm just going to use colored pencil on the bug. Now you may want a little more pop of color in this, and so use a little more of your purple or that periwinkle or whatever. You could also add in an additional purple or a pink or, whatever color that you think would be good there. But overall, I was really pleased with how the background turned out. Here I just noticed that I had missed a little petal of the leaf and this little stem, so I just kind of stop what I'm doing and color those in. And then I finished up the rest of the background. Now here I go in with the sepia. I'm just kind of keeping, you got to be careful with the sepia because it will really overtake your image if you're not careful. If you put it too deep into the bug, your overall gold will look very tarnished. It'll make it look like an older gold, like an antique, which might be the look you're going for. But just be aware of that. But basically you can use any browns here. You just want a darker brown, a lighter brown, and then go in with, you could use goldenrod, you could use sand, you could use eggplant. I don't know, eggplant is a little too peachy probably, depending on how bright of gold you want. I did not want a really bright gold, so I went with sand, and I'm happy with how it turned out. If you want it to be like a shinier gold and maybe like a big focal point on this picture, then I would go in with something like a canary yellow. And I would also leave white in it to act as a shine, as a highlight to make it look shiny. I didn't really want my bug to look shiny, so I didn't leave that there. Once again, personal choice, 100%. So using the same browns, the light umber and the sepia, I just kind of added a little bit to the sides of his head and on these little, like the trim of this bug. So I chose to use the same colors in the bug that are in the flowers, but you could certainly do any color here. And I think that it could look really nice, just having a pop of a different color to bring that bug to life. I wanted the mood of this picture to be subtle. I tried my best, and I don't know that I succeeded, but I tried my best to use a more muted palette. I definitely tend to use more in-your-face colors, and I'm not really good at just like the pastels and stuff. And I don't know that I succeeded because in the end, like I said, I always put in the darker tones because that's just what I like. But I admire it in other people when I see their pictures and they have that muted palette. It's beautiful. And every time I set out to do it, I'm like, I end up punching it up a little bit, and so I don't know that I'm very successful in my mission. I feel like the picture was a success. I just don't know if it was a success in the mission of making this really muted picture. So when I did these beads, I really toyed with the idea of making them like a gold to kind of go along with the beetle. And in the end, I decided, no, I wanted an overall softer look here and a much more subtle look. So I'm just kind of going in with the same colors that I used throughout the picture. And I'm shading in just this right hand side with a little bit of a C motion on each of the little baubles. And then I'm going to go back in and I'm going to blend it out. I think I put one more color in here, and then I blend it out with a Prisma white pencil just to, kind of smush all those colors together, make it look more blendy. And then I'm gonna go around the entire thing with a white posca pen just to eliminate the black lines. And then I'm going to use a posca pen for a highlighter. And in addition to that, I go over the white. Once the white posca pen has dried, I am going to use colored pencils to kind of go over it and just make those lessen the starkness of the white Posca pen. Once again, it's a subtle thing, but I think it does make a difference. So I'm going to leave you to it, and I'll see you in a few. So here I'm going in with sand. I just wanted to add a little more depth of color here, and I used sand in the beetle, and so I felt like that would be a good choice here. I felt like the cream, it just wasn't enough. So I'm going to do that for all the flowers. I'm using a Pentel Sparkle Pop here. I really like these. They're very vibrant. The page, you just don't, it doesn't even do it justice at all. But I'm just going into the center of these stars. I experimented off camera and I felt like the Sparkle Pop would be too dark if it was just filling the stars, and I really wanted something to fill the black lines. That was more my objective. I didn't want the black lines outlining the stars. I'm just moving the book so I don't smear. But so I used the yellow Posca pen, and then I just put this in the center. And I like how it turned out. It did not photograph well at all. In real life, it really adds a little zippity to it. I would also consider adding a little bit to the inside of the flower, but I didn't really think about it when I was doing it. I only thought about it right now when I'm editing it. But so that's something that you could consider as well. And then I had kind of smeared those little dots, so I thought I would touch them up. And I did try and zoom in so you could see, but even now it doesn't, you know how it is with glitter. The shimmy shimmy just doesn't photograph well. So as I looked at my picture, I felt like the leaves were kind of blah. I just wasn't liking them. So I decided to go in with the darkest purple, and ever so lightly just go over the leaves, just barely kissing the paper, and then just running it down the side here. And I really like how this turned out. I feel like the purple just adds that little something I felt like it was missing. So let me know what you think. I feel like it tied the page together, but maybe you liked it better before. Let me know in the comments what you think. Our final step, and I debated a while on this one as well, was to put in the white highlights. And so I went ahead and, using a white posca pen, just kind of went along the edges of the petals. I'm glad I did, but for some reason on this page I was just reluctant to do so. But as always, it really makes it pop a little bit, I think. I chose not to do any on the leaves, just simply on the flowers. And I think I do some on the bug. Guys, I really enjoyed having you here with me today. If you like this kind of content, please hit the subscribe button. Once again, if you missed it earlier, we are having a giveaway at 1,000 subscribers, which I'm very close to. So thank you for that. I appreciate you all more than you know. So this will do it for this one, and we'll catch you on the next one.